So listen up, I've got a bit of a story about the Philips Evnia 34M2C6500 before I go into my review. Now, I actually bought one from Amazon and it cost me just under £600. Fantastic price, by the way, and I'll say now, if you see one as cheap as this again, just buy it. It's a bloody wicked monitor. Anyway, I bought one, it arrived, I set it up, I played the new Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on it, and everything just was absolutely fantastic. I loved it so much for gaming. However, I wasn't really sure on it for my productivity. I use OBS a lot in my content here on YouTube, and having an ultra-wide panel and recording at 21:9, trying to make it fit into that 16:9 video for YouTube just started to look really odd. Anyway, unfortunately, I did send it back. I wasn't 100% on it, and when you're not 100% on something, then it's a lot of money to justify it. I'm not rich by any stretch, so back to 16:9 I went with the monitor setup that you can see behind me right now. However, a little bit later, Philips got in touch, didn't they? And they wanted to send me one, hence why I'm making this video now. But because I also wanted to see one again, because my God, gaming on this thing is just absolutely breathtaking. I absolutely love OLED panels and I absolutely love ultra-wide. And if it wasn't for YouTube and my content creation, I would 100% have one on my desk right now. Anyway, that's the story behind this screen. Let's crack on with my review. So this thing is known as the Philips Evnia 34M2C6500. It is a 34-inch ultra-wide OLED panel that can produce a resolution of 2560 by 1440p, and it has a refresh rate of 175 Hz. It's touted as being Display HDR True Black 400 certified, but HDR isn't really the best here. It's got an 1800 R curve, which is definitely more than enough to hit your peripheral vision and keep you well immersed in the content you are watching, and for gaming, this is definitely a huge benefit when playing single-player story-driven titles like the new Indiana Jones game that I've just downloaded, but more on that in a moment. The bezels are a little wider than I would have liked, but still in a darkened room you don't really notice them too much, and the stand below is a nice grey material following suit of other Evnia models which we've seen with the recycled plastic marble type effect. It's just a little bit darker than the other screens we've seen. Likewise with the rear, it is a much darker grey than other Evnia panels out there, which is okay. It doesn't really affect the overall usage of the panel at all, but it is nice enough. The stand is pretty chunky with a heavy clip that holds it together. It is overall quite a stylish looking monitor, and though maybe not as suited to a white themed setup as some of their other Evnia models. Underneath you can find several inputs, including a DisplayPort 1.4 and two HDMI 2.0 ports. You've got a headphone out, a USB 3.2 hub with a USB upstream and two USB downstream ports. One also has a fast charge capability for phones and laptops and other devices. There are no video feeds through USB from laptops though. Now before I go into my testing results, I just wanted to say, wow, right now, this Philips monitor is probably the best screen that we've had on this table ever. I mean, the results achieved here were just nigh on perfect. They aren't quite 100% and you'll see why, but my goodness, it does come close. Anyway, enough of me fangirling over the screen, let's talk about some results. The color gamuts came back strong with 100% sRGB, 95% Adobe RGB, 98% P3, and finally 93% NTSC color gamuts. I mean, already just look at those numbers. If we push into color accuracy, then again be shocked because this Evnia screen hits an average of 0.73 on a Delta E and a maximum of 1.72. So even that maximum Delta E is pretty much spot on compared to some of the screens that we've seen in the past for color accuracy. For its brightness and contrast, the Evnia achieved a contrast ratio of 8,720:1 at 100% brightness. However, knock this brightness down to 75% and we saw a contrast ratio of 13,540:1, which was absolutely astounding. The white point sat at 6,400, which again was great to see, and color uniformity was super balanced across the entire panel at 50% brightness, which I suppose it's dark spot hitting in the bottom right hand corner at 0.6, but oh no, what a shame that is. Look, there's literally nothing wrong with this score at all, and even at 100% brightness, there's still nothing really to comment on, except maybe an outlier in the bottom middle, but nothing again shocking at all. Luminance uniformity was pretty much dead on again, with I suppose a bit of an imbalance on the left hand side of the panel and at a 50% brightness, but again these numbers thrown back are nothing to be concerned about at all. Now, did we just win the panel lottery? Of course this could be just the panel proving great, but it's what I've got to comment on, and saying this, I mean, my sentiment still stands. Wow. For its grey to grey response time, I got back a measurement using the OSRTT tool of 1.23, which I must say is pretty astounding if you ask me. This was while having adaptive sync and low input lag both switched on. There was also equally as impressive as the refresh rate being 170 Hz during this test. Sat comfortably within this window at around 86% of the time on the panel I have here. In terms of RGB overshoot, the Philips Evnia panel has performed brilliantly with an average error coming in at 1.63, but the worst error coming in at 9. If you look at the chart above it though, there is really nothing going wrong here and all is looking again almost perfect. In terms of the menu settings on offer, everything is pretty simply laid out with your image presets being on the first tab and more focused gaming features on the second tab. These include turning on and off your adaptive sync technology. There's a crosshair that you can turn on if that's more your thing, and also a setting to turn on low input lag mode as well. Apart from those, most of the other settings are pretty normal. You've got your settings for ambiglow, which unfortunately here is a little lackluster, and you've got some audio settings for volume and some system settings. There is also no overdrive mode for this monitor because it uses OLED technology. There is really no need for it, and as the panel performance is ever so impressive anyway, without it there's no need for an overdrive setting. Running a UFO ghosting test shows that no ghosting is really taking place, which is fantastic again to see, and great when it comes to gaming performance as well. And as Philips have stated already, this panel is Clear MR9000 certified, which is another testing method used over MRPT to measure blurring. And just for the sake of transparency, I did use the sRGB picture profile mode in the settings to do all of my testing. I do also want to quickly mention as well that this screen does have some relatively lovely panel care options, as it is an OLED panel, and these are designed to reduce burn-in as much as possible by shifting the image ever so slightly thanks to its pixel orbiting and pixel refresh settings. I have both of these switched on, and also a warning switched on to perform a complete panel refresh from time to time as well. I know OLED are susceptible to burn-in, and depending on how long your screen is on for, you may notice it quicker than others, and there is a warranty protection here, but do keep those settings switched on and pay attention to the warnings and reminders just to keep your panel as nice as possible. For gaming though, this thing is pretty insane, and the picture quality in pretty much everything I threw at it was just absolutely awesome. Let me start by talking about Indiana Jones, as I mentioned it before, the Great Circle game that's just been released, because I've only just downloaded it, and from what I have seen in the previews, it looks absolutely great, and I thought what better game to test the OLED capabilities of this screen. And also because the game has an anamorphic cinematic setting, and because this is an ultra-wide monitor, there was no black bars on the top or the bottom that you can find on 16:9 panels, which made it feel really immersive as well. Now, I only played through the first opening Raiders section of the game, and then slightly into mission 2 where you're in the university with the storm going on outside, but the jungle looked just super luscious, and the lighting coming through the trees looked really sharp and striking, and colors here absolutely popped, and the inky blacks really did help with that contrast ratio, especially when you started getting into the tomb section of that first opening level. I did then move on to test some Path of Exile 2, again because it's just been released, and this game was so dark in the opening moments that I had to turn the ISO up significantly on my camera to really capture any video, but that does say something about the quality of this monitor and the inky blacks. It was absolutely still playable for me in person, and it looked really fantastic. Everything looked nice and sharp, and the colors again popped, especially when there was a red flame on the screen. The text also looked really sharp as well, and in a 21:9 aspect ratio, I could see quite a lot of real estate on the map. And finally, where would we be if I didn't mention Overwatch 2, because I play this game a hell of a lot, and it's probably my favorite competitive game at the moment, and I had to give it a test on this monitor. And I must say again, being the type of game that it is, relying on a more cartoony aesthetic, and again having that extra real estate of 21:9 is great, but being a competitive title, it does lose that edge because you've got so much more space to keep an eye on, but it did still absolutely pop, and the colors looked fantastic. Watching content on YouTube and Netflix also produces quite a stunning image, especially when it comes to color reproduction, but do take note though that pretty much 99.999% of content now is made for 16:9 screens, so expect black bars on either side of your content. So hands down, this this Philips Evnia 34M2C6500 ultra-wide gaming monitor is my favourite gaming monitor I've seen so far. And yes, while refresh rates on OLED screens are getting better all the time, you know, they go up to what, 480Hz now? Price to performance wise with this panel, there is really nothing better on the market right now that I know of. Of course, tell me if I'm wrong in the comments and let me know which panels I should be looking at, but from the way it looks, to its panel performance, to the fact that it's an ultra-wide immersive screen, there is really nothing I can say to badmouth this monitor. Nothing at all, really. Thank you very much for checking out this video review of the Philips Evnia 34M2C6500 gaming monitor. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button, subscribe to keep up with our latest tech and gaming videos, and also let us know in the comments down below, is this something that you would purchase for yourself for your gaming setup, or have you got another ultra-wide panel in mind? Let us know in the comments down below. As I say, thanks very much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.